Hey people, I hope you're doing good. I know it's been a while. That's my fault. But I'm here, right? I got the milk, okay? You can't say I ran away. I got the milk. I'm back, okay? Thank you. um, yeah, I feel like I don't have as much to talk about anymore, but that's probably because I'm just, I'm kind of just living life, getting by and all that. I do notice things from time to time, but nowadays, I feel like a lot of what I wanted to say has already been said, which is probably why, the channel slowed down. But I also believe that YouTube is definitely, definitely pushing my videos down. Like, for the amount of subscribers that I get, okay, I do get quite a few subscribers from the YouTube shorts and things like that, but still, the views just don't make sense, right? Compared to the views I would get before. Like right now, it's like they're really being pushed down. So I'm gonna say this: YouTube, if you're listening, and I know you motherfuckers are, push this video, okay? Let it get at least double the views from my last video, which isn't even that much to begin with, okay? I hope YouTube responds to online creator pressure, right? I hope, but anyways, we'll see what happens. So today, I just wanted to kind of reflect on how life is really just about who likes you. That's how far, how far you get pushed along in life is basically just depends on how people like you, how much people like you, or what they're willing to do for you, if that makes sense. What they're willing to do to associate themselves with you, or to position you as somebody who is, let me not even say a role model, but someone they, quote unquote, aspire to be. And I say aspire to be because we see these people in the media, for example, and a lot of people aspire to be them, but is it really aspiring to be them? Or do you want the money they have? Do you want the fame they have? Do you want to maybe look like them physically, that kind of thing? Do you want their appeal, do you genuinely see someone and you're like, yeah, this guy, I aspire to be like this guy, or this person inspires me. And I really think nowadays you can see it so common. Like, to me, and this is just a weird thought I had. I was just watching YouTube videos, and there's a lot of these new features, or like maybe features I hadn't noticed before. And like now there's a feature where if somebody posts a timestamp in the comments, when the video gets to that timestamp, the comment will pop up, and I'm like, oh, that's new. But at the same time, when I use YouTube, something about it just feels so dystopian now. And I don't really think it's just because of that new policy they're bringing in to have people YouTube accounts connected to their ID, which personally I think is wild, is insane. If you think any of these companies actually care about kids, you are dead wrong. If it was legally possible for them to advertise to kids as young as like from straight out of the womb, they would, right? I'm not quite sure about advertisement laws, but I know in a lot of places you cannot directly advertise to children, or you can't really, they can't, like, they're somewhat limited, These companies do not give a single damn about the kids. This is about control. And, especially during what we saw happen during COVID, to see how many of these companies, hiked up prices, denied other people services and all this kind of thing. It really showed how much these companies have power over us. And to be honest, there's nothing you can do about it. Like, you can not use your money, yes, but that doesn't really like long term, if people are really committed to it, yeah, maybe the companies might feel it, maybe they might try and change, but it's not really against a particular company, right? You can do that to a particular company, but you can't do it to the institution. And this is where, I say life is a popularity contest, because these companies become popular, they gain users and customers and, all that. And eventually they gain sort of like a monopoly, right? And from there, it stops being a popularity contest and just becomes sort of like you have no choice in participating in this, right? We don't have alternatives. My point is, we don't have alternatives, right? If you even look at like high school, and I bloody despised high school. Like, oh man, like it was not like, I just don't feel like it was a necessary time. High school was just not a necessary time. Let me say that it was horrible, right? And you see the kids who are like the cool kids, or like, to be honest, a lot of the kids who I saw in high school who were like the cool kids were just filling a vacuum that wasn't really filled by anyone. There's nothing really they did that was exceptional. There's nothing they did that was worth talking about. There's nothing, like there was literally nothing to them. They were like shallow. Like maybe they came from like wealthy families, right? If you come from a wealthy family and you like, I don't know, I didn't get it, right? You just have money. Basically, a family has money. That was like a prerequisite for being cool, right? And to be honest, you could see that these guys wouldn't be able to function in society the same way once they graduated, because they were so used to calling themselves cool, or surrounding themselves with like popularity or whatever. And the real popular kids, right? Like the people who would call themselves popular or actually were the popular ones, they played sports. They were known, like even during like assemblies and stuff like that, they would always have their names called, or they would always be getting some awards, some medals, things like that, right? They played sports. And in my school particularly, it was rugby, right? They were really good in rugby. Those were the guys, right? Those were the, like, I can't even really say bullies, because they didn't even bully that much. It's the kids who deemed themselves as cool kids that also like pretended to be bullies. It was so like, I don't know, high school was just, it was sort of like an intro to like organized crime, but in real life, like before real life hits, right? And I'm not that old, trust me. I don't know how old I sound, but I'm not that old, right? I'm old enough that social media was a thing in school, right? It was, it was gaining popularity from the past, like, let's say the mid 2000s to the late 2000s, right? So yeah, people wouldn't the influencer lifestyle wasn't there. The influencer, the idea of an influencer wasn't really there. You wouldn't find kids saying they wanted to be YouTubers or Instagrammers or TikTokers or things like that, right? It's totally different from how it is now. It was still there, right? But I feel like now there was this pressure to, get on Facebook, friends with people. Like there's people who had like 5,000, 7,000, 9,000 friends. I'm like, first of all, you're 16 years old. Where the hell are you getting 1,000 friends? Like, what? How? You can't know even half of those people, like person to person. I feel like people were just, back in the day, people were just like friending each other just to have that number of people. Again, to say that they're popular, right? Keep in mind, this was before. This is how dystopian, like the word is genuinely dystopian. This is how dystopian the modern day has become. Now, you have people going into restaurants expecting discounts because they're influencers. They eat for free, and they'll give you, they'll make a video for you when you get free publicity, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't care. I don't care if your mom's an influencer, your dad, your great grandaunt. I don't care. If you come to somebody's restaurant, pay them. right? You can't expect them to just give every influencer free food just because they came in and said they have a following. How ridiculous is that? How ridiculous a few numbers on a social media platform gives people that level of entitlement, gives people that sense of like they can do whatever they want or they can say whatever they want to people. So much of our lives is being drained into these platforms. Like, I can't even lie, like, even to you listening right now, I'm sure there's at least 2 or 3 apps you use every single day for at least a few hours every single day. Like, I don't know, it could be Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. If you're that old, Facebook is basically like saying I communicate with email now. If that's your thing, like, I'm not hating. I'm just saying. YouTube, I think, is also one. Like, I use YouTube every single day. Like, I can't even lie. And things just seems so different on YouTube. Like, there's still good content being put out, but I feel like now it's like an open secret that YouTube has favorites. YouTube plays favorites. And, if you don't align with their ideology, you're getting shut out. And it's not just YouTube, it's all these other platforms. Now, like, look at them now. All of them are rolling out these IDs. If they perceive you as underage, you have to submit an ID. Or, like, they're rolling it out, quote unquote, right? But trust me, in like 2 years, this is the most ridiculous part of it. You're going to connect an ID not just to a YouTube profile, but YouTube is owned by Google. That means your ID, basically, it's Google telling you to give it your ID. Do you understand the gravity of that? Google is taking your personal information, like your real physical personal information, to have on file always. And they're not a government, and nobody even knows what they're going to do with this information. Nobody knows. They don't know. We haven't been told. What are they going to do with this information once they have it? This is sort of where, like, popularity now becomes this force on its own that just controls people's mind. Or, what's popular now is what's being put in front of our faces. It's not manufactured. Like, it's not really, even the organic level of popularity before was still manufactured to some degree. People had to pretend to be likable, right? Because, mind you, being popular or being cool does not equate to being likable at all. Like, at all, right? If anything, the majority of people who are popular now have no personality. They are just that product that you see in front of you. That's them, right? They look at popular like a keyword. They break it down. They see what people who are looking for this word want to see, and they emulate that. That's like the basis of marketing. That's pretty much the basis of online marketing nowadays, right? They fulfill a demand, right? They fulfill this, need for people to emulate. I can say that, yeah. People to emulate and be like, right? Because, again, if you really notice, as the society is decaying, we have less and less and less people to genuinely look up to. Like, we don't have role models anymore. We just don't. That term doesn't exist anymore. It existed when I was a kid, and you could point at someone and, maybe people in your own family, maybe, even a celebrity, whatever, and you say, this is my role model, because we don't have them anymore. That dynamic doesn't exist anymore. And to some degree, I'm not completely hating on social media influencing and everything, because on the one hand, the barrier of entry is actually pretty low. You can start creating content today, and if you know what you're doing and you're consistent with it and all that, you can build a pretty nice following and become, an influencer. You can become popular yourself, right? The problem is, what do you do once you get there? What do you do with that popularity once you get there? Because, there are people who will use that to exploit others, and a lot of that happens on this platform. People will use that popularity and that need to aspire to be someone or to be like someone or to be around someone that I was mentioning earlier. They will take advantage of that and abuse that, right? And to some degree, you will see people in the community pointing that out and calling them out and everything. But that's the thing. These corporations will protect these popular people. Why? Because they're bringing them money, they're bringing them views, and they're bringing them users. I'm sure off the top of your head, you can think of like 5 people on YouTube who have genuinely done disturbing, manipulative things, and they're still on YouTube right now. Their channels are still on YouTube right now. But some other people are posting music or posting content or whatever, and some greedy freaking corporation copyright strikes their channel and closes down their channel. Like I'm sure you know at least one person. If you know of any, you can tell me in the comments, right? I have so many examples that I can't really mention. I can't really focus on one, or at least I'm not sure if I can convey it the way I want to. But you definitely see what I'm seeing. But again, we don't really articulate these things out loud, and it's so hard to even talk to somebody about these things out loud because we're just inundated with so freaking much, right? Now, add on, AI has, like, for the past, it's been around the past 3, commercially available, I can say, the past 3 years. Like, AI has always been around, it's just what we know as AI right now, as, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Grok, all these other AIs have been commercially available for like the past 3 years. And you now see people, or you now hear of stories where people are so intertwined with artificial intelligence that they are now emotionally and psychologically dependent on them. And this is not to shame those people. However, it is a glaring issue in this reality that so many people, think about this, 8 billion plus humans, and they're only growing in number, 8 billion humans, but there's still so many lonely people, so many isolated people that they become emotionally and psychologically dependent to what is essentially just a bunch, like a chatbot, right? Something that just is code itself, knows how to code, and only responds. The only language it really knows is code and logic, right? It only knows or understands you because that's the information that it has been fed. It is not alive. It is not thinking necessarily. It is not a sentient being, and they will tell you that. The AIs themselves will tell you that, and that's kind of scary. Something that's not sentient telling you it's not sentient. It maybe it's just producing the data. But at the same time, if it's taught to react in a way, the more you teach something like that to react to a being that is sentient, the more you want to see yourself in that non-sentient thing, right? And I feel like that's one of the biggest problems is we don't see ourselves in the world anymore. I know this is sounds deep and off the top and whatever, but it's true. If you're at work, you don't really see yourself in your work. Like most people, it is so bloody difficult right now. It is so hard. Like if your parents didn't have connections, or if you didn't do a degree or a master's in like a really in-demand field of study, it is so hard. So many people are just barely scraping by, and to me, it kind of defeats the purpose of, why do we still call first world countries and third world countries? It's pointless. Every country is going through the same thing. It's like there's a global recession that people don't want to talk about. Because I can guarantee you, somebody my age, if I meet them in the UK, or I meet them in India, or I meet them in Nigeria, or Brazil or something, somebody my age will be able to relate to my problems directly, right? They might have different problems in the countries, but a lot of the things I'm talking about, they will be able to be like, yeah, we have that problem, but it's worse in 1, 2, 3 ways. It's worse in this way. It's worse in that way. These countries don't serve us. These institutions don't serve us. And that's the kind of system that we're being forced into conforming into, right? What does it even mean to want to be known? Like if I really put my effort into this channel and it actually got somewhere, like if I ever even got to like 5,000 subscribers, I'd be over the moon, right? 5,000 subscribers for me would be insane. And I'm not really saying, like, your voice has power, right? The few people who even still listen to me and who have listened to me for a long time, there's something I say that resonates to them. And to me, that's all that matters. That's literally all one person can listen to this, take something away from it, leave a comment, and that just makes my day, right? I don't care. Like on my other video, my last video, I think it was the video before, somebody left a comment about me wanting to be white for some reason and everything. Like the comment's still there. Like it's all still there. I always leave my comments open. Like there's rarely, if ever, I think I've deleted a comment. But I just found it weird how, like, I'll say something and then somebody will interpret. I'm not even sure where they got it from or where they can quote me about it. It doesn't really matter. I've been told that enough times. It doesn't even bother me anymore. I'm like, but that's not the point, right? The point being, with this popularity, I think comes a monopoly and this need to manipulate and control people's narratives and people's, literally, your ability to be suggested to, if that makes sense, right? Your very suggestions, right? We haven't really lived in a free world for such a long time, and maybe it's just because I'm pessimistic, right? Like I've lived in certain places where you could say the people are free to do this and that and this, but again, everything's commodified now. Everything has a freaking price tag on it. Yes, even your freedom, even your citizenship, you name it, whatever it is you think that doesn't have a price tag on it has a price tag on it. Everything, every bloody thing, and it's all being bought out right in front of our eyes, while our eyes are glued to the screens, blinded by these freaking there are everyday people who are just Black Mirror, like the series Black Mirror, has already come to life. Do you think they got those ideas just out of the blue? They saw what was already happening, or what was about to happen, and they're portraying it to us in a way that's so scary and so unthinkable. But these things happen. They happen even more now, right? Black Mirror will be, I've said this before, in a few years, Black Mirror will just be a documentary about the state that our world is in. And like I said, it doesn't, there's barely any, I feel like it's even worse in third world countries because, and I'm just using the term because that's the term that is normally understood. I don't like the term first world and third world. They're outdated. They don't really, make much sense anymore. But I just say it because it's sort of easy to understand. In third world countries, it's just that much worse because people still don't have enough to live off of every single day, right? The population keeps increasing and the service, what you would need to cater to a population to a decent amount. I'm not talking about, like freaking living in Singapore or South Korea or freaking, I don't know, any sort of really posh place you want to talk about, even though those places also have issues. But, as an example, right? We already have these problems with development, but then you add on these, like, what are really first world problems, right? Into this social atmosphere. And it just creates like such a, toxic level of degeneracy. Like there's a toxic level I feel like is too much, right? A little bit of degeneracy here and now is pretty good, I feel like the system is just it's way too sanitized because it pretends to want to care about law and order and civility and politeness and everything. But mind you, this is the same system that condones, modern day slavery and human trafficking and all these other terrible, terrible, terrible things, right? These third world countries now have to deal with freaking. Now imagine having a first world influence mentality in a third world country. They do it here. Oh, yeah. They'll go to restaurants and be like, yeah, I'll make you a video for free, blah, blah, blah. If the restaurant is stupid, if the guy's dumb, yeah, he'll agree to it. But, they'll just whoop your ass. They'll just beat you. They will beat you and like kick you. They will kick you out and beat you or beat you and kick you out in that order. Whatever order it is, just basically get the fuck out, right? Get out. Don't even waste that time, right? And, now, to me, it seems like being a YouTuber wouldn't be such a bad career. These kids want to be TikTokers and Instagram influencers. Those are very different audiences, right? You can have the same group of people watching something, but it's totally a different audience. And here's the thing. If our IDs are now tied to TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, wasn't there already a guy, somebody who was deported from the US because they had a meme of the vice president, they had a meme of JD Vance. Wasn't there somebody deported because of a meme? If I'm not mistaken, that actually happened. Now think about that. No, really, it's ridiculous, but think about it. Some stupid meme you've posted today is now connected to your account, connected to your ID. And who knows, maybe they'll have maybe Google will release a service. I don't want to give them ideas, but maybe they'll release a service where you can be like, oh, do you want to see the social media history of your employees? Just type in their ID right here and we'll present it. Do you see how that's a slippery slope? Do you see how detrimental that is to just the very idea of human expression itself? Like, yeah, sure, once you post something, it's public. However, we post things. There's barriers in place for a reason. We don't give these companies all of our freaking information, right? Some will take your picture, fine. They'll need your picture. Maybe they'll need your name and everything. But your physical, real world identification, that means you have like a police state on top of a corporate police state, and anything you do or say can just be spun around against you at any given time. So your ability to express yourself is it's one thing to agree to the terms and conditions. We now have to conform to them no matter what, right? Because how long is it before these accounts now become, instead of the ID being tied to your accounts, these companies will attach their accounts to your ID. And I feel like it's the other way around. To me, I really feel like it's the other way around, okay? We're not trying to conform ourselves to the companies. The companies are trying to conform themselves to us. They're trying to relate to us. You will see companies in comment sections making funny haha memes and being relatable and all that. They have studied our habits. They see our jokes. They want to conform to us, right? They're making it seem like they're all approachable and friendly, but really they're just merging and buying out other options and buying out competitors and buying out influencers and buying out, influential voices just to make you feel like you have to conform to. And that to me is not, that isn't even a world anymore. That's just like, we are actual pawns. Like, unironically, we're just pawns with money and eyeballs to be drained. You know? Like, I thought I would have some, like, deeper points about how far you get in life, but really, now instead of just kissing your boss's ass and everyone else's ass, now you have to kiss social media's ass. Literally, you have to kiss social media's ass, or they can put your career on the line. You pretty much have to kiss ass everywhere just to look like a good boy in the system, or a good girl, or good whatever you identify with in the system, just so you can keep staying afloat. And that's the degrading thing about a popularity contest, is people will do anything and have done anything and will continue to do anything just to conform. Think of anything possible, anything you would never even dream of doing, and just know somebody has already done that. Just for clout, just for views, for likes, just to be seen, you name it. So yeah, that was my brief thoughts on it. I would say be very, very cautious right now. You still have a mind. You can still think. You can still express yourself, regardless of whether a computer is on or whether it's off, regardless of whether somebody's looking at you, regardless if you're alone. You still have that ability to be yourself, to conform to your own standards, or to live by your own standards. And I think now more than ever, it is really important to do so, because who is going to tell you what's right and wrong? Nobody already. But we're now being really groomed into a system where you have to accept what is right and what is wrong, and somebody else's opinion, some corporate stooge's opinion, is going to be the one that we're going to have to accept. And I don't find that acceptable, personally. So, definitely take care with what you intake. Look at the people you look up to, really scrutinize them and ask yourself if they're worth your time, if they're worth your admiration, and if they're worth your views and your support, that kind of thing, nothing too serious, Other than that, take care. If you like my videos, please like, share them, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, if you wanna, I'm not too fussed about it, but if you're still here and you're still listening, I have like $100,000 hidden in a safe in a freaking town that's 5 kilometers away from you. If you're still listening, I'll give you the details on where to get it.